Hello, welcome back to Sextras.
Where we talk about sex and all the extras.
I'm Honey and I hate the word diva. It's such a terrible word. I hate it.
Why do you hate it?
I also have a list of words that I don't like on my phone, and that's one of them. So
Why do you hate it?
it's just like, people only ever use that word when it's like they don't have anything good to say about someone. They're like, oh, she's such a diva. And I'm like, yeah, but what do you actually mean though? Because it's giving me bad vibes.
Yeah. But sometimes it is the only word that you can use to describe. You know? It's so specific.
Nah, I can think of so many substitutes.
What do you mean it's so specific?
Okay, no, because I feel like diva did start as like a specific word for a specific kind of person, like a performer. But now I've been seeing it and hearing it used in so many ways that it's like, why is that the word you chose? It's so irrelevant. Maybe I just hate the misuse of the word, but I also just hate the general word.
God.
So I don't know. I'm conflicted about that one.
Oh god. Okay. Well, I'm Maria. Hi guys. My fun fact is that I I don't really know how to phrase this fun fact really. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm not someone that like peed the bed for very long. It wasn't like abnormal, or anything. But I basically never outgrew the whole peeing yourself thing, apparently, because I've had so many incidents of like peeing myself in public, like so many more than I can count. And I don't know, I think I have like some kind of problem, but also like it was very accentuated. Like when I was drinking a lot, I would pee the bed sometimes, because I was so drunk, like I didn't even realize. So yeah, I guess my fun fact is that I pee myself and I'm not ashamed. I have to accept my flaws. But it hasn't happened in ages.
I'm so proud of you for accepting
It hasn't happened
it.
in ages. Okay, so that's a plus.
There was like a good period in time where you were known to pee
Yeah, I
yourself
know, sadly.
all the time, and it was so funny. Yeah,
Oh.
but I haven't heard of it happening in a while. To be fair, there are like a good few instances every now and again where I'm like, I did just like pee myself a little bit. So it's not like abnormal, don't worry. Also, I always have those dreams where it's not like a dream in itself, it's just like a short thing, when you have to pee when you're sleeping, and then you dream that like you're walking to the toilet and you're like at the toilet, and
Yeah.
then you're like
Yeah.
about to pee.
Yeah.
And then I always wake up like,
No, because
and
that's
I'm
how
like,
they
oh my
get
God, I
you.
have to
That's
pee.
how they get you. Like, I don't know, the dream demons or whoever they
The
are.
simulation.
Yeah, genuinely. They like make you think that you're gonna pee, like in the dream you're peeing, and then that's how you pee yourself in real life.
Yeah, that's what happened when you were awake as well.
But I mean, talking of peeing myself, the exact opposite topic, I guess, of today's episode.
Oh wow, what a segue.
Yeah, because we're gonna be talking about dry spells. So,
Yeah, very exciting. The best topic anyone could hope for. I feel like people are gonna see this episode and be like, I don't want to get cursed. I'm not gonna listen to it.
yeah, well, we thought it might be kind of relevant for some people because I mean, we are in the middle of a pandemic. So
Yeah, it's definitely not relevant
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely didn't do it because Honey was complaining about her dry spell or anything like that.
No, I feel like I'm being pretty good about it, but I'll get into that more later. We'll talk about the
Yeah.
specifics. But we wanted to start with a segment, as always, where we asked everyone what's the longest you've gone without sex and how did you break the dry spell?
Okay, so someone said lockdown number 1, and they got a vibrator that's controlled by a partner during that time, and then they finally had sex after that. So nice little touch of a little long distance sex toy moment. Plus then actually being reunited. I like it, building the tension.
Yeah, I like that. A little bit of a preview beforehand. They're so expensive, those vibrators, though. I think we've talked about it before, how we both really wanted to get one. We talked about how that sounds really cool, but yeah, they're so expensive. They're like 150 to 200. So
if anyone wants to send us those, that would be really nice.
Yeah, we are looking for sponsors, so if anyone wants to sponsor us, please send us that. Next one, someone said my whole life. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, clearly this question wasn't really aimed to like virgins, because we know that's how it works. But
one day, buddy, one day.
Yeah, we're rooting for you.
The next one, someone else said 1.5 years. Lockdown and my girlfriend being in another country, not a good combo. Yeah, I bet Honey can relate.
Can confirm, not a great combination.
Yeah, God, I feel like so many people have been forced into this position, and I feel like we've said that a gajillion times, but like, as Honey knows, and as I assume, it's honestly rough times.
Fingers crossed we're gonna have a sexual boom after COVID, but apparently in Australia as well, they've said that because they don't really have that many COVID cases, everything's pretty normal, and there hasn't been like a massive rise in sex. Nothing's really changed. Which is like, oh, come on, the UK can do better than this.
Definitely.
Fingers crossed. The next one, someone said, lol, like 2 weeks. Which I was like, wow, honestly, that is so impressive. Good job to you.
Yeah, what the fuck? I was kind of like, is that really a dry spell? Like, how long does it have to be for it to count as a dry spell, realistically?
I guess it's more like whatever's longer than your normal period of not having sex, or whatever feels long relative to the person. Because if you have sex all the time, then if you go like a week without having sex, you'd be like, okay, this is quite a dry spell. But maybe if you only have sex like every couple of weeks or once a month or whatever, you could go a solid 3-4 months, and then that would be a dry spell.
Yeah. What would you say is your, like, when does it start getting into the dry spell territory? Like, how long?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to answer right now, because I had that 7-month dry spell, and that was obviously a long period for me. And for anyone, I would say 7 months is a long period. But now it's been like 4 months, I reckon. But obviously that was different because I had someone that like I could have sex with, versus before that, like before I was in a relationship, I would say when I was having sex, I would have sex like once, twice, 3 times a week. So if I wasn't having sex that regularly, if I went like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I would say a couple of months, because a couple of weeks isn't that long, like it's manageable. But I think a dry spell is more the period where it's unmanageable, the amount of time you've gone and you're like, oh, I'm never gonna get out of this, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like 2 months, 2-3 months. What about you?
Yeah, I would say like a month or 2. I mean, I'm not saying in the context of like my relationship right now, like if we were seeing each other as much as we're seeing each other now and we didn't have sex for 1 or 2 months, I wouldn't even count that a dry spell. Like, I'd be worried. But in more general terms, I'd say a dry spell is like a month, like a month and a half or 2, like that kind of area. Like 6 weeks ish is kind of when you'd start being like, it's been a while, hasn't it?
I would say 6 weeks is the period where you first start getting like a little bit restless, but 3 months is the absolute most I would go without being like, okay, now we really have to do something about this. Like, this is getting a bit ridiculous. Okay, so yeah. So I think now we've clarified what a dry spell is to us. Obviously there will be people that listen to this and they're like, 3 months, like how like, what's wrong with you?
Mm.
But that's fine. Everyone has their preferences, you know. Obviously, this is not the situation I choose to be in right now, and everyone's probably... Actually, I've seen so many things of people saying they haven't had sex in over a year because of COVID, so if that is you, my heart goes out to you. I hope you have a good stash of sex toys. Anyway, thank you for those submissions.
And to all of you in a dry spell, I hope that it ends soon, baby.
Yeah.
But let's get into the episode.
Okay, so we were saying, because as we said earlier, this episode was kind of inspired by how I have been in a dry spell for quite a long time, and it's not like this is an isolated incident. Like, I also went 7 months last year, and that was kind of painful, but and that was even before COVID, where it was like 3 or 4 months, and I was like, oh my god, this is kind of ridiculous. But little did I know I had another 4 months after that to wait. So like, I look back at when I was complaining after 3 months of being in a long distance relationship, and I'm like, oh, that was so naive of me. I never would have known. But if you're just a regular person in a regular relationship having a normal amount of sex, then you will definitely have gone through a dry spot, like, without a doubt. You will have. Unless you're like a character from Sex and the City, in which case they seem to just magically have boyfriends like every other day, which, if you've been single in like London or another big city, you will know, like, it's just not no, it's just not like that. Or maybe that's just me, but it's not like that for me. What would you say is the longest you have ever gone without having sex? Like, what's your longest dry spell when you were single?
I would say that my longest dry spell was probably when me and my ex broke up, and I didn't have sex for like 6 months or something. And I guess that's like the longest I've gone. But I remember that we broke up, and then I was still kind of like into her, but there was like no hope of us getting back together or anything. But I kind of still wasn't like trying to sleep with anyone, because I was so like, I'd only slept with her at this point. So I was just really scared of sleeping with anyone else. And so I wasn't really like putting myself out there or anything. If anything, I was just like trying to sleep with her pretty much, while she was like trying to sleep with a guy, since she had discovered she was straight and had never actually had sex with a guy, so she could, you know, finally do that since she didn't have a girlfriend anymore. And she would like talk about guys and stuff, and I would just be like,
I'm still in love with you.
Yeah, so I didn't sleep with anyone because I was yeah, as I said, I was so scared, and it's not like I was very confident back then or anything. Like, she was the only person I'd done anything with, really. I'd never even kissed anyone else. So yeah. And then what happened was, I had a friend from camp. I went to this sort of like summer course thing in America when I was 16, while I was still with my ex, and I met this girl there, and we became really, really good friends. And then the summer after me and my ex had broken up, she came to see me, this girl, and like, our relationship was kind of, is a little bit complicated. Maybe I'll get into it in another episode. It's not really for this topic, but the point is that like, this girl like really liked me, and I really liked her as a friend, but I didn't really like her in that way. But I think part of me was kind of like I let it, like, I slept with her, and it kind of happened because I knew that she would never hurt me, or like that it wouldn't be weird, or that it wouldn't like be gross or anything, because I knew she really liked me, and that it was like a safe person to sleep with, I guess. But I don't know, we didn't really like fully do like that much or anything. And it was kind of a weird moment. So I still didn't really like feel out of that dry spell. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, and then to be fair, like really soon after I slept with her, I lost my straight virginity. So um and then after that I kind of haven't had like super long dry spells or anything. But yeah, I'd say that's my longest dry spell. And I think
Good
I
job.
got the only way I got over it was like because also the guy that I lost my straight virginity to was someone that I had history with. Like we liked each other in a previous life or whatever. Not a previous life. That sounded super dramatic. I just meant it in like years before or whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
But so I don't know. I think the way I broke my dry spell was find people that I knew it could be chill and it would be like not stressful. So then I wouldn't be like feeling all the pressure of oh shit, do I even know what I'm doing, like I don't even know what sex is, you know. And especially after like your first relationship and you've only been in a relationship, so it's like you only know how to fuck that person and you might think that you're great at sex, but you don't know because you've never even fucked anyone else. But in many ways, just a little token of to make you feel better, you're probably a lot better than a guy that has fucked like 13 girls in one night stands because you've had that consistency,
Yeah.
you know? Just in case like anyone's insecure. And girl also.
Yeah, and you know the value of getting to know someone's body better as well, because you will have just come out of that situation. Even not just your first relationship, like any relationship you come out of, it's such a daunting thing to then know when, like, firstly, obviously you have to deal with the whole breakup situation and getting through that, and then when is it okay to sleep with someone, and is the other person sleeping with someone, and is it going to be weird if you do it first? Do you want to be the person to do it first? But then also having been like out of the game, as you would say, you might not necessarily be really confident in like your ability to know how to get laid. You just might feel out of touch with things, or it feels weird and wrong and all these different layers of emotion. And then when you actually have that opportunity, like if it's the first person, it feels weird and you have to be ready for it. And I don't know, I think dry spells are so weird because, well, especially for girls, you don't really get horny if you're not having sex. Like it's a scientific thing. Girls just are less horny when they're not having sex. I think we've talked about that before, but yeah, so the longer you go, the longer it's like, I'm not really horny, I have no incentive. But then it's also like, well, we should probably do something about this so it's not like my whole life.
Yeah.
But then it's like, how do you get horny if you're not? I mean, obviously you can masturbate and that kind of thing, and that will kind of get you horny, but it's not really the same as having sex with someone and like having to go through the paces of finding someone to have sex with.
I literally like sometimes when I'm not having regular sex, I won't even like I'll get horny for a bit if I stop having sex, and then I just won't, and then I literally won't even masturbate, like nothing, and I will just become a completely sexless being.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, what? So I don't know, I think a little goal of mine is like, okay, if I'm not having sex, like just keep masturbating so I stay horny, even though it's not like a nice feeling a lot of the time, especially when you can't have sex and like you have a boyfriend or something, so you're kind of like, you know, you have that bigger drive, you know. But I still think it's important to kind of like stay in touch with that, not to sound like super whatever, but like it sucks to kind of like just not be horny at all. It's kind of like, what's happened to me? What the fuck?
Yeah, I get you. That's the thing, is it's so annoying that it's like that for girls and not for guys. Like guys are more horny when they're not having sex, but guys are like also horny when they are having sex. So it's kind of it's just not the same thing in a dry spell. But I have had so many instances of guys where they have dry spells and then it's like they have to get back in the game or whatever. And they're super anxious about it because you kind of forget what it's like and what's acceptable, or you're just super in your head about if you're gonna do something wrong, or and then you can get into this whole rut of you haven't had sex, and then you get scared to have sex, and then you get scared to look for people to have sex with, or you get rejected once and then it's like, oh no, this is going so badly, and then you really take it to heart. But as being taught us, it's important to not be upset by rejection because it's not personal. But I get that you can take it to heart if you're just like trying to reignite your sex life.
And then also there's the whole thing of if you like haven't had sex in ages, and then you kind of are just kind of like, oh, I don't even give a fuck, like I'm not even horny, and then you just start believing that you don't even want to have sex. So it's like, oh, why even try? Because it's like, oh, I don't even miss it, because you actually don't miss it, because you don't even remember, you know. And then I literally remember, like, my boyfriend, hate to throw him under the bus here, but my boyfriend was saying this before we got together, like, all this shit about how he doesn't even miss sex because he just, like, was in a dry spell or whatever. And then we started having sex, and he started having sex regularly again, and he was like, yeah, to be honest, like, I don't really know what I was talking about. I just didn't even know what I, like, didn't even remember what I was missing, so, yeah, I take it back.
Yeah, it's so scary how you just get comfortable in it. I guess it must be some kind of survival mechanism that you're just kind of like, some part of our biology is like, okay, this is okay, convince yourself this is okay, convince yourself you don't miss it, it's all gonna be fine. But in reality, when you finally do have sex again, you're like, oh, okay, no, this is amazing. Now I need it all the time.
Yeah. Do you have any, like, tips on getting out of dry spells, or any sort of things to note or whatever?
Well, I've been really afraid in the past to approach people that I find attractive and proposition them, you know what I mean? I'm just not that kind of person, and that's something that I really want to like improve on. So I would say just like don't be scared of doing that, because you're only really hurting yourself, you know. It's just important to stay in touch with your needs and desires, like your horniness, as we were saying, but also if you see someone you like, might as well just like take a shot, you know. There's not really any harm in asking. And yeah, I would just recommend for people to get to know like what a good way is to approach someone, or have one method in your mind that you know you can always use, that will not guarantee you something, but at least you know you've tried and you're actively seeking it.
Yeah.
I would also say it's just important to not deep it too much. Don't get super in your head about it and be like, oh, it's because of this, it's because like I'm unlovable or I'm unattractive or any of those things. It's nothing personal, as we say, and it's also something that you can take control over, you know. If you're in touch with your eroticism and like all of that kind of thing, it will be apparent to other people that you're like looking for it. Like you have to put out what you want to attract in. I know that sounds so stupid and so cliche, but I promise you, it's just like a fact of life. I think we were saying with going out, like when you're single, you are just more available and people can sense that. Whereas if you go out when you're in a relationship, you're more closed off, so it's not the same. You're not attracting that same feeling.
I was gonna say, as my little piece of advice, I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast, but I mean, it sounds a little bit fucked up, but if you're kind of like stressing out, you're kind of like, oh shit, I don't know whether I can even fuck anymore, like, I don't know what I'm doing, you're really overthinking it, blah blah blah. Maybe you can sort of like go for someone that you're not like super serious about, or someone that maybe you don't even find like super attractive, like, even though that sounds a bit fucked, but you know, someone that isn't gonna make you nervous.
One person is always less attractive, so it's fine.
Yeah, or maybe like an old friends with benefits, I don't know, something like that, that would just be like super casual, super like low pressure, someone that you know is like you're not gonna care at the end of the day, like whether you do perform well, or whatever that means, you know, like it will just be a lot easier to get you out of your head.
Yeah, for sure. If you're single and you're in a dry spell, like you were single before and you were sleeping with people and now you're in a dry spell, I would say to avoid even getting into the dry spell in the first place is like keep your options open. Don't have just one person that you sleep with. Like maybe you have a friends with benefits, but you also have other people that you can sleep with occasionally if you feel like it, or if the other person falls through, you know. When you're single, that's kind of like the joy of it, is not putting all your eggs in one basket, even though I hate that expression, but that is very much what it's like.
Yeah, when I started sleeping with this guy, I sort of like my whole sex life depended on him, and we weren't even together or anything, but it was just like I was at the mercy of his booty calls basically. And that's what you kind of don't want to do, because then whenever they're kind of like, okay, I'm kind of bored of this or whatever, then you just end up going through a dry spell because you have no one you can go back to or whatever. You know, and then it's like this whole thing of like, oh shit, now I have to find someone new, and this whole thing. So, I think as I grew older and wiser in my singledom, I kind of like just had a few guys that it would kind of be like, and I always had my favorite and like the one that I mostly went to. But then when it was kind of like, oh, whatever, then you always had like someone else, and then sometimes you just want a little something different, you know?
Yeah.
But another thing I was thinking, in terms of lockdown shit, because obviously you can't have this whole thing going and whatever, you can't have like all these options, be sleeping with all these people, whatever.
A rotation.
But you also don't want to like get into this rut of like, I don't know how to be sexual with anyone other than myself in the dark, like watching porn, you know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, I'm not like suggesting anything, but something that came to my head is to kind of stay away from that like non-horniness and like the whole dry spell thing. It's like a good thing to just like keep that going, like in like sex, or like, I don't know, just be sexual in a way. It doesn't have to be like actually having sex, but if you're kind of being like, it doesn't even have to be as far as like phone sex or like FaceTime sex, nothing like that. It can literally just be like, oh, maybe you like send a picture in which like you can see a bit of cleavage, or like literally something, you know, like flirting.
Or even just take nudes for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you, pheromones. I really like keep those pheromones like active on your body, and then it's not gonna fade. Because when I say eroticism, as Maria just said, like I don't just mean having sex and anything, like any sexual acts. It is just like about your whole embodiment and like the actions you take. You can do that in so many ways. Even though this whole situation is so shit, we're not just gonna all come out of this pandemic and be like, okay, well, now we don't know what to do. Like, might as well do something to get your thrills in the meantime. I've been saying so many expressions. I sound like an old man. Like, this is just proof that I just need to keep in touch with my own sexuality. Otherwise, I'm gonna, like, wither into this, like, old man person.
Well, yeah. I guess my pandemic suggestion is just like, first of all, obviously like masturbate, and then on top of that, like, I mean, it's not compulsory, and I'm not saying I'm sorry, I like really don't want to sound like I'm preaching or anything, but I feel like if you feel like you're kind of in a rut and a dry spell, to somehow get out of it and not have to like full out sleep with someone else and like go infect yourself with COVID or whatever, you can just get the thrill from like talking to someone online, you know, being like just to keep that like human thing going. Rather,
yeah, don't like wallow in your dry spell, basically.
Yeah.
Even though there's nothing to wallow in because it's dry. Don't like sunbathe in your dry spell.
Also, dry spells can be fun sometimes, I guess. Like, I don't know, that I'm kind of extending the whole dry spell thing, but I'm just thinking like times when I haven't had sex in a while, and then I see my boyfriend, which it's not the same as a dry spell, I know, but then like I see him and then you have sex again for the first time and it's lit, and like, so you have that to look forward to, you know. There's always some goodness at the end.
Yeah, but I would clarify as well that when we're saying dry spells, there are people that do like voluntary abstinence, you know, and that's like a whole mindfulness thing for them. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about. Dry spell is very much involuntary. Yeah. But I mean, I have to say, I don't think I'll ever be one of those people. But I really admire the people that can do it. So yeah, good job to you. You have amazing brain power and strength. Overall, just embrace yourself, embrace your sexuality regardless of your situation, you know. Put out the energy that you want to attract in, even if that means that you can't sleep with someone right now. Maybe you have that little like excitement to look forward to for when we're out of lockdown, and you like, it's just building up all this sexual energy inside you that when it can finally be released, you'll be so happy about. So yeah.
And like, dry spells fucking suck, but at the end of the day, like, everyone goes through it, so don't deep it and be like, oh, like, no one's ever gonna fuck me again, I don't know how to do this, like, fuck, I'm gonna be alone forever. Like, that's not
it's
true.
It's all my fault.
Yeah, like, everyone goes through it and it sucks, but it will end, whatever, you know. Fuck it.
Yeah,
but yeah,
definitely fuck it. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed. If you're in a dry spell too, you got some inspiration, or you just like don't feel so alone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. You can find us on Instagram at Sextress Podcast and on Facebook at Sextress Podcast, and our website is sextresspodcast.com. Just all amazing Sextress Podcast things. Definitely share with all your friends. Come back next week because we love to have you. And yeah, if you want to leave us a review, you can do that on Apple Podcast or Podchaser, and we would really appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Bye.
You've been listening to Sextras, presented by Honey Jane Wyatt and Maria Jose Hayodatiyi, produced by Mabel Productions.